Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session with Carm and Brian Mahon, the top 5 cyber myths you must stop believing today. My name is Heather A. Kolar from the Heather A. Kolar Agency, affectionately known as HACA, and we are very excited to bring this information, these two masters in their field to you today. And the conversation is really about helping business owners better understand real world cyber exposure, what's changing rapidly, and what companies should be doing to defend and protect themselves, their clients, and their reputations. So, Carm, before we jump in, I'd love for you to introduce Brian and why you felt it was important to bring him into this conversation.
Well, thanks, Heather. I'm Carm again, president of CyberChick, and it is my pleasure to introduce Brian Mahon from Igloo Insurance. The reason I invited him in is we met at a business social, and what it really struck me is for an insurance expert, he sure knew a lot about cyber insurance. And from where we work, we want to help our clients qualify for the best cyber insurance premium possible to make sure that they're protected. And when I watched his videos, I was like, this guy's on it. So I had to have him on.
Thanks,
Brian.
Carm. Appreciate it. Yeah, first LinkedIn Live, so I'll have to check that off my bucket list here.
Right? Awesome. And why would you we're trust us with your time right now. We apologize if there's any technical difficulties. Um Brian, rolling the ball back to you, same question. Tell us why Carm and CyberChick stand out in this space.
Yes, Carm's awesome because his firm takes a agnostic approach to cybersecurity. Right, he's not a reseller or a managed service provider. He's really consultative with his approach with his clients, which I love. His background's also like scary, amazing. Working with like the Department of Defense, which not a lot of folks have that experience. I find that the most knowledgeable cybersecurity professionals across the country typically have had some sort of connection or past role with organizations like the CIA or DoD or FBI. So I really like that about cyber chick.
Yes, right. It's very impressive. He definitely knows what he's talking about. And I think we all know how much not only is everything changing, but specifically the cyber landscape is really, really changing. It's changing rapidly. Carm and I always talk about that the cyber industry, the cyber crime industry is a $10 trillion industry, right? I mean, it's incredibly large. You have people go to work like it's they're working in a real company, and in fact they are. But the changes with AI have made just it's grown by leaps and bounds, and there's so much more. They're so technical and advanced in what they're doing. What might businesses be underestimating right now?
Well, first of all, I think that they're underestimating their risk and their readiness to that. And
Hmm.
when you look at cybersecurity, they look at it as, first of all, they look at it as an extension of IT. And while there's definite overlap with IT, and I like to say you need a great IT partner to get started, the people, processes, and technologies are more than what IT handles. And when you look at it, though, from a risk or a readiness perspective, these are the things I need to have done in order to safely operate, as opposed to, well, maybe I need these just to get by. And it's a very important distinction between, with risk and readiness as opposed to, security and protection.
And I think that dives and plays very well into my next question, which is why has cyber risk become a business issue and not just an IT issue? You kind of tinkered on that.
Yeah, well, if you look at what's IT's job is to make sure that your technology supports access to your data and supports your business processes. From a cybersecurity perspective, of course, data availability is a concern, but so is integrity making sure that it is not manipulated, and confidentiality, that somebody else doesn't have access to it. So
Mhm.
it's much more than that. And I like to say, hey, whose fault is it if
Mhm.
HR sends my paycheck to the wrong bank account? It's not IT's fault, right?
Right.
And so you just can't drop all of that on that. You have to look beyond that. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, cyber risk is a business problem, right? It's going to affect all different departments of an organization if there is a data breach or cyber incident. It goes into psychology with training employees. I mean, we see that as
Mm.
really one of the number one areas of claims in the cyber insurance industry. Hey,
You said psychology. Tell
yeah,
us a little bit more about that. That's so
yes, yeah.
interesting.
I uh, I got a psychology minor in undergrad. I enjoyed it, and this phenomenon of phishing, right? You click on a link, you get a text message, you get
Mhm.
a phone call. Now, I mean, you could get a live video call that is a phishing attack, right? Hey, I got a new bank account. I switched from PNC to Truist. Can you update my direct deposit? And the person in your organization who does that doesn't call you up on the phone or say, "Hey, come to my office and fill out this form," and they do it, and then you don't get paid
Mhm.
for 2 months. Or
Yep.
same situation with paying a third party vendor. I've seen
Mhm.
it with uh, even IT companies and contractors, their annual insurance bill. Oh, hey, save money if I pay in full. And then the agency 30 days later says, hey, you never paid your annual insurance bill. And say, well, yes, I did. Well, there was a phishing incident in the middle of that transaction that was nefarious.
And they were using AI, right? If they're doing videos and voices and cloning and
Yes. and
wow.
and AI to do research of understanding your organization structure, who is making
Mm.
the payments, who's in charge,
They're
who
research and
report-
development companies
yeah,
in a
yeah, oh,
very real way, but in
yeah,
cybercrime.
hmm
Wow. I think these are things that people can really relate to because we also face it on, we experience in our personal lives, right? And it's now, we love to go B2B because it's bigger business, right? So they're B2B as well. So
Yes.
let's jump
And
into these.
I
Go ahead,
I
Carm.
just want to add in, like, so like what Brian was saying, the deep fakes, which are
Mhm.
a technical exploit. I had a client recently asking about, what do I do to stop this? Well, even though it's a technical exploit, there's not a technical fix to it per se right now.
right.
Right,
Mhm.
right. You need a process. You need to be able to some way of validating that that person is who they say they are, and that means
Mhm.
you need to have some type of alternate communications link to verify that.
We're going to
And
ask you to
or
go
you can
into that.
also, if you're
Yeah.
concerned about deep fake, you can also ask them to stand up and dance around or wave three fingers in front of their face to prove it. But
Well, that sounds funny, and I see Brian smiling, but is that an actual tactic that people
Yeah.
can use, right?
Th- there is another tactic. One of our insurance carriers suffered a cyber incident, and they had to re-authenticate all employees, third-party vendors, like insurance agents and agencies. And the way they did it is, uh, you go on Zoom, and you go on Zoom with the IT department. You hold up your driver's license to the webcam, and then somebody
nice.
who knows you and trusts you. In my circumstance, it was like a district sales manager got on the Zoom call and said, "Yes, this is Brian. Can you type that into the chat of Microsoft Teams?" And then that whole process, went up another level for approval. So it's like a triple authentication almost.
Because the world has changed, right? It's standard to have virtual events, to have
Mhm.
Zoom meetings with top tier people on it and close business deals and do transactions. So it totally, we're living in a new world for sure. We're living in a new world. That we're kind of accustomed to at this point, right? So, what are the risks that come along with that? We're going to jump right into myth number one, which we got from the both of you, right? Talk about this a little bit. People are like, we're too small to be a target. Why are smaller businesses and I'll address this to Brian. Brian, why are smaller businesses increasingly targeted?
They are targeted because they're low hanging fruit, right? They
Hmm.
don't have a Carm in their office. They probably don't even have cyber insurance. They have lower IT budgets, right? At least around where I live, a lot of small businesses are connected to larger businesses. These actors, these hackers, they're not as successful trying to take on top 500 S&P 500 companies, but they're very successful taking on mom and pop shops all across America. So there's a kind of a famous cyber incident that occurred with Target, everybody's favorite retailer, right? And
Hmm.
there had a small HVAC contractor in Pittsburgh, which was how that cyber breach happened. They got in through the HVAC control system through that contractor that was responsible,
Wow.
and then that was able to spread throughout all of Target. So there's countless stories like this. We locally here in Lancaster just had a vet clinic go on the news and talk about how they were down for 3 days because they got hit with ransomware. I mean, I've heard it from local accounting firms, local media companies, local construction companies, local insurance agencies. So, they don't have the same rules and regulations where they have to notify or they have to make it public, right, in the news. Or, we always see, oh, Under Armour or these big names, but we don't hear about the local little companies that it's much more likely to happen
Right, right.
Yeah, and I like to run with that because he hits on a great point, and what we're starting to see emerging is third-party risk management. Now, large companies have to do that.
to.
Smaller companies don't have to do that. But who do you think large companies are to diligence on that? And that's the small company. So they're going to come to the small company and they're going to say, do you have these basic protections on? And a lot of those basic protections are going to correlate to cyber insurance. Do you have, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, patch updates? Do you have a business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, incident response plan, and all of those governance and aspects of cybersecurity that, again, are a lot of times outside businesses, but they're going to find themselves in the future having to do it because their large vendors are going to demand that of them. So don't think you're too small that you don't have
And
to do some of this stuff, because in many cases it's coming.
and we
Yeah.
s- and we see that all the time. There is no mandate that you have to have cyber insurance. It's not like workers' comp, where as soon as you have a W-2 employee, you have to have it. So there's no compulsory requirement. That being said, if you're working with, the McDonald's, the Walmarts, the state of Pennsylvania, a lot of these top big four accounting firm or consulting firm, a lot of them are pushing contractual cybersecurity and cyber insurance requirements onto their subcontractors or these small business owners. So yeah, they don't think about this stuff until they're signing a contract that someone's going to pay them, one of their new clients, to take it seriously, unfortunately.
Great
Absolutely.
comment from Michael.
Mike Gansel, no one is too small, since we are very much interconnected. And we also have John Mitchell. Okay, absolutely. Includes not just currency, but also sensitive files that protection levels will give clients confidence that you protect their interests. It's always about spot on, John, right? It's always about not only the company's personal risk, but your clients, your reputation. And like you said, they got Target was hacked through a vendor.
Mhm.
So they can get through the smaller vendors and wreak havoc. And one thing we talk about, but you didn't really mention, is that there's no discrimination in automated AI attacks, right? These criminals are using automation just like we all do. And so they're just shooting for the stars and unfortunately landing a
Yeah.
lot of the
They're
time.
yeah, they're
That-
blasting out their attacks to all these small businesses. It's not like they picked your name out of a hat, Joe Schmo
Right.
Cleaning
Yeah.
Services.
And they're
Yeah.
using AI to do everything, to do the research, to figure out who's
Yep.
who, to plan the attacks. And it's on steroids. It's on steroids. So let's move to number two, myth number two, which we actually covered a little bit, but just expound on it a little bit. Myth number two is, but we have IT and our IT department handles everything.
Yeah, I always caution small businesses who maybe are hiring their first IT firm for the first time, because it's kind of the technology industry is kind of the wild, wild west, right? If you hire
Mhm.
an attorney, they pass the bar. If you hire, an accountant and they have a CPA or not, insurance agents, we all have to have continuing education and meet certain requirements to
Yep.
call ourselves those professionals. In IT, there's no such thing. It's not
Mhm.
like, hey, you get your managed service provider badge and you have to do continuing education every 2
Wow.
years.
Okay,
Sure,
that's good to know
sure,
for
there
me.
are, certificates. You could be Security Plus, you could be, Microsoft, whatever. But the difference between an IT service provider, a managed service provider, a managed cybersecurity service provider, are all very different, and who you're working with may or may not kind of be faking it until they make it in the cybersecurity world, when they're really, Jimmy the geek that can reset your password and update your email. They're not going to go, threat hunting with a security operations center and chase down the bad guys for
Yeah.
you. So, or do forensics work if something does happen. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
Yes. So, like with that, if you again, cybersecurity, people, processes, and technology. If you're just talking about technology, an IT company might do this much,
hmm,
an MSP might do this much, and an MSSP will do everything technology wise. But a lot of companies came in and maybe started here, or maybe they're here, but that rest of that technology space are potential technology solutions. But it's also it's really about risk. And then how do I fill in those other solutions with some other type of action, people, and processes to fill it in? Again, if you have a small IT firm, and this is, I'm not knocking anybody, this is just a
Right.
reality. When
It's
it
a
comes
reality.
to, they know this much about cybersecurity and what they offer. If they don't offer it, they might not know about it. And again, that's all, that space is a risk that needs to be filled, and that's where we come in. And I like to look at him, and I think I like to look at, I'm stealing Brian's words, although he hasn't said it yet. I think it's, you have IT, you have cybersecurity, and you have cyber insurance, and those three kind of work together, and
Mhm.
they all have slightly different missions.
and
Mhm.
what I've found in the space too, is two things. One is there's a master services agreement with these IT companies most of the time. And I'll say 50% of the time they're mandating cyber insurance or strongly recommend it. So they're saying, hey, we can do all these great IT things and protect you, but something can still happen. The other half say, oh, yeah, maybe it's a good idea, or maybe they don't mention it at all in their contract. But I've heard this a million times. It's not, if you get hacked, but when, right? I mean, you could be the federal government or Fort Knox and have all the best tools and tech and processes and procedures, but stuff still happens, and you
So
may be
talk a
able to
little bit more about that. What
yeah,
role does cyber insurance play? Because we're on three right now, right? And people,
right.
myth number three is our security is strong enough. But like you
Yes,
just said, you could be the military, the federal government, and still get hacked, which does happen. So what role does cyber insurance
right.
specifically play?
And I hear that all the time, and it makes sense. Budgets are limited, right? Or do we invest in the cyber insurance and the new fancy cybersecurity tool, or do we do both? And how much are each lowering our risk, and how much do each cost? I think every executive, CFO, IT director, has a budget somewhere. Someone has to make that decision, right? So we help them do that math. Where the ignorance comes into play is, oh, I just invested in, Sentinel One MDR, and, I spent all this money and we're super secure now. May be true from a business continuity. You can restore from backups. You're going to, mitigate the risk and decrease the cyber insurance claim. Um, but there's still privacy liability. There's still laws. You still need to notify those individuals who are impacted. You still need a privacy attorney to figure out if that cyber incident truly was a data breach, because that's a legal term. So what cyber insurance really is it's financial loss coverage for dealing with the ramifications of a data breach. Personally identifiable information gets out when it shouldn't. Personal financial information gets out when it shouldn't. Personal health information. So the first thing that happens is it gives you an easy button. It gives you a 1-800-365 incident response hotline. That hotline is manned by a privacy attorney that acts as the quarterback, right? To bring in all of those incident service providers, the credit monitoring companies, the notification companies. You may have, tens of thousands or millions of records from the past 20 years of being in business. How are you going to notify all those people within 2 weeks or three
Yeah,
weeks,
it's
whatever
impossible.
law you
Yep.
have to follow with? So there's companies
Yep.
that help you, do mass mailers and mass notify them.
Yeah.
Cyber insurance will even pay fines and penalties, right? So the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, at least here, Carm and I are in Pennsylvania, fined Uber for losing about 10,000 Pennsylvania driver's licenses. They were all Uber drivers, and that turned into a class action lawsuit, but ended up being millions of dollars in just fines.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's
The-
really there's just so much that has to happen
Mhm.
when you're hacked, when your information gets out, when your client's information, when your employees' information gets out. And I'd just like to ask Carm real quickly. Carm, what differentiates companies that recover after an attack versus those who don't? Because you guys, I'm sure, have seen both sides of that coin. And again, keeping in mind for everyone who's here is that we're talking about not just your business, but your reputation. Reputational loss could be
Yes.
far worse than financial loss.
And
So,
and what's interestingly enough, cyber insurance will pay for public relations specialists to help with
okay.
that reputational harm that, goes way beyond IT or
Yeah,
cybersecurity.
yeah, for sure.
And the big issue is, how prepared are you? You do you know your processes? Do you know where your information is, what your critical data is, where it's stored, how that information flows? And just like Brian was saying, if you have to notify all of these clients and these vendors, do you know who they are and have you documented that? And these are all the type of things that go into that governance that cybersecurity can do that a lot of people don't do. So, and
Mhm.
so the readiness on, do I have a plan? What do I do when the stuff hits the fan? Who do I
Right.
call? Who comes up? If
Do you
I
have a
have to,
story,
who do I
Carm?
contact at my cyber insurance team and how they're going to, do I know what Brian said, that they're going to have a, privacy attorney who's going to help quarterback this?
Do you
But
even know
that
that's
but that whole
necessary?
preparation is key.
Yeah. Yeah, can you share a story about either a situation that went good or bad, either one of them, without divulging too much information about the client?
Well, I'm just going to give an example right now, and we're helping a client go through this process right now, and they're not a very big company in terms of people. They've got about a dozen people, but they service several thousand online clients, and then they
Mhm.
have nearly 100 vendors that support them, and they're like, oh, well, we serve so many, and they're kind of humming and hawing about it, but it's like, I know this is painful, but you have to know who you're serving, so that again, when the stuff hits the fan, who else needs to know? And sure enough, what happened last week is their website got hit, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
offline for a bit. Now, fortunately, it does. They didn't lose anything, but it just kind of drove home the point. How are you going to get that information, and how are you going to get it out there? So,
Right.
fortunately, it kind of helps us, stimulate the importance of what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And as we started, the bad guys aren't playing. They're not playing around at all. They're going all in, guns a blazing. They're not stopping, and they're only getting faster. They're getting smarter, and they're succeeding more. So you just talked about a breach for a website. Let's talk about myth number 4. Our data is in the cloud, so it's not our responsibility. You're laughing. Like, who wants to?
This one's my favorite. So,
Okay.
i- you know, because it's partly true. Most myths have a true component to it. So
Hmm.
yes, if
Sure.
your data is in the cloud and secure and you have multiple copies and one segmented and offline, you can restore from backups and business continuity moves forward. What most folks don't don't realize though is there's still privacy liability. There, you know, that confidentiality that Carm was talking about was broken. There was an outsider that got into that cloud environment. Did they take anything? Are they holding it for ransom? Are they going to release it on the dark web? So again, you may be okay from a business interruption perspective, but not from a privacy perspective. You have to, you know, get the privacy attorney, do the forensics, figure out how the bad guys got in. What most businesses don't realize, and we actually did this in a class I took. I went through a program with Carnegie Mellon and Chubb, one of the biggest cyber insurance carriers on the planet, their CyberCope insurance certification, and we got out, you know, Microsoft Azure's cloud services agreement, Google Cloud's services
Mm.
agreement, um, you know, AWS,
What
and
most
oh,
companies are on one way or
yeah,
another.
who do they say? Most of them say something along the lines of this, and don't go read it for yourself. We, cloud company, will do the bare minimum to make sure you have, you know, 98, 99% uptime and that it's secure. However, the security settings and anyone who accesses this is on you. So, you know, good luck suing, you know, big tech. Their lawyers are 100 times as big and paid for than yours are.
Mhm.
Good luck negotiating that contract, right?
Mhm.
So for a small business owner who's like, oh man, I got everything in the cloud. I just go get a new laptop from Best Buy, spin it up. I'll be good in an hour. Technically, that is true from a business continuity perspective, but not from a legal privacy perspective.
Right. For sure. We have another comment from Andrew, and he is sharing, just talking about business recovery. Those that recover have a current and tested business
Yes.
recovery plan and disaster recovery plan, and everything that it entails, right? It's not just one thing. Brian and Carm, you can jump in if you want. I want to hear, why do claims get denied? So you go get your cyber insurance. You think you have a good cybersecurity plan in place. Do you really? Why do
Uh,
plans get denied?
and to Andrew's point, cyber underwriters do expect you to have that incident response plan, right? So why do claims get denied? There, it happens. You know, we hope it doesn't. Misrepresentation. So
Okay.
Bingo.
these cyber insurance questionnaires are poorly written. I will agree. They're frustrating. It's a lot of yes no questions. I encourage folks to fill those out as if they were fill in the blank, even if it's worded as a yes no question. Be as honest and transparent as you can. Be proactive. You know, a lot of business owners or CFOs will get the questionnaire, you know, 30 days before it renews, and then they fill it out a week before and they rush, and, you know, they get it sent out to the broker and they just renew. What happens is IT is not consulted or cybersecurity is not consulted. They may say, yes, 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 we have MFA on these 4 areas. Well, come claim time, you only had MFA on one of
Can
them.
we be honest about MFA?
Yeah.
Nobody likes it. Nobody
No.
likes it.
Get
It's a
over it.
pain. Get over
Yeah.
it though, right?
You get over it. You're gonna use, in some form of another. Whether it's that or a YubiKey or something like that.
And
Yeah.
You
let's
need
talk
to have
about,
some other form.
for
Just get
everybody
over it.
who's not an IT person, we're talking about multi-factor authentication, right? So
Yes. So,
authentic. So yeah.
so going back to like why claims get denied, those applications become part of the policy, and the policy is a legally binding contract, right? Another reason claims get denied is you don't have the coverage. You thought you had it with general liability or business owner's policy or a little endorsement or
Let's
rider.
jump right into
You
number 5. Myth number 5, right? General liability or business owner policy covers cyber. I have business insurance, right?
Right.
So
There are about 15 insuring agreements in a standalone cyber insurance policy. They fall into 3 categories. First party, hey, I'm the policyholder. I'm hurt. I need help. I need the forensics guy. I need the attorney. I need business interruption while I'm a sitting duck because I can't access my IT systems to do business. Then there's third party, right? I'm getting sued because I lost PII, PFI, PHI for my patients, vendors, clients, whoever. Maybe there's some multimedia liability there. Oh, we posted something on our blog or our website, and we accidentally stole copyright or intellectual property, and now we're getting sued. So that can happen in an online format. And then These are the worst of the worst, not very common. Catastrophic systemic cyber risks, where because we got hacked, our third parties got hacked, our clients, our vendors, or whatever. That was
Mhm.
the Blackbaud was a famous one. The CDK Global one was a famous one. That kind of supply chain risk. And then there's cybercrime. So we have three sections. So what happens is, you know, unfortunately, my industry does a bad job. There are not very many cyber insurance specialists in the insurance industry. There's about 40,000 independent insurance agencies. I'd say there's less than 100 that truly could say they specialize or are extremely knowledgeable in cyber insurance. And I have a few thoughts of why that is. We can get into those if you want. But yeah, business owners are saying, I'll get the $200 endorsement on that business owner's policy, and I'll get, $100,000 of coverage for that third party liability, which again is only going to be about 20% of claims, maybe 30% of claims. And then they'll have next to nothing for the first party coverages and the cyber crime.
Yeah.
So it's a band-aid, or
It's a Band-Aid, and
we'll
people
check the
really
box
have
type of
to.
thing. Yeah, we have cyber
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah.
$200 a year.
Well, we really jumped into this. When we were in working with the government, we didn't have to deal with cyber insurance issues as much. But on the private side, we're helping a client, and this kind of wraps back into the whole expertise and what you need. We're helping a client. We're talking to their IT team, who said, "Well, their owner is looking at cyber insurance, and we think they're good." So I said, "Can you share the cyber insurance underwriting documents with me?" And I looked at it, and there were three areas that I knew were an issue. I said, "That's a no, and that's a no. Why? I don't know why you think you're good, but those two are distinct no's." And then this third question's a real problem. It says, "Have you been breached in the past 3 years?" Well, yes, you have, and that's how we ended up there. But who's going to
Mhm.
help you answer that question?
Yes.
And who do you want helping you answer that question?
And I'll add to that, Carm. So people say, well, how the heck do they come up with the prices of cyber insurance, right? First is what you do, your industry. How much of it do you do? Revenue. What kind of data do you have? PHI, PII, PFI. How much data? Tens of thousands of records, millions of records. What your IT controls are, which are obviously the only thing you can really control. You can invest in proper cyber hygiene. We can talk about what underwriters think that is. The last one is, have you had a data breach or cyber incident? Yes or no? Of course, a no answer is great. But
Right.
if there's a yes answer, what do you do? Well, you want to tell a story, right?
Yeah.
These underwriters are humans. How did the bad guys got in? When did it happen? What did you invest in post incident to make you a better risk and stronger
Yeah.
Mhm.
now than you were 2 years ago? And some carriers take the stance that, like, hey, we actually really want to write that business because they know
They
the deal.
get it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
know the deal and they get it. So this is so interesting. Before we get on to what I gotta ask Carm to talk about, which is how do people fill this gap, right? How do we do all that we can to defend ourselves? I was using the word protect, but it really is a defensive position we have to take, right? Companies have to take at this time. Um, what does all of this mean to the business owner? Like, you talked about psychology, Brian. Carm, you're a business. You guys both are business owners. Carm, you work tirelessly to help people get in the best situation that they can. It's not a static position, right? So what would you tell our attorneys, our wealth advisors, people who are running, firms and practices where they really need to steward the non-public private information that they have on their clients and protect them, to defend them? What would you guys, a quick rapid fire, 10, 15 seconds each, what would you say to these people?
Well, one, I'll lean forward with the military analogy and readiness. You're always improving your foxhole. So you've got to just keep working on it. It isn't a one and done. And we understand you've got limited resources. Let's prioritize and over time, just gradually improve the program. There's 6 domains to cybersecurity: identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and governance. Most companies are weak on governance because nobody likes to do policy. and they're weak on detect and respond because it's expensive.
Yeah.
But this is where we come in to help mitigate the risk. Again, risk mitigation, be ready. Brian?
Yep. From a process perspective, I say you gotta train your people. I mean, I know folks are getting away from the online phishing training, security awareness, know before, click the video. Oh, it's a Netflix style, put it on my third monitor and keep working. Like that stuff has got to go. Uh, the employee population click through rate is very important, and you might want to consider doing those trainings in person, off of the computer to really
Mhm.
hit the seriousness home.
Mhm.
And then from a cyber insurance perspective, get a policy if you don't have one. Even applying for one is a good risk management activity. Buy it,
But
going back to Carm's
before they do
governance,
that,
because
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Before they do that,
And
right? We go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, and folks who do have a policy, put the 1-800-365 instant response hotline in your cell phone, because when
Mhm.
stuff hits the fan, you may not have your business laptop. It may be encrypted with skull bones and ransomware and pay Bitcoin
Mm.
here. It may be 2 o'clock in the morning, Black Friday. Like when these threat actors reveal themselves, it's going to be the most inopportune time for you and the most opportune time for them.
Right.
And
For
print
sure.
off, have a printed copy of your insurance policy and your continuity and response plans,
Yeah.
because you won't
That's
be able to
that's a
access them
key.
if they're online.
Yes, that's a key, right? So
Yeah.
we're moving steadfast into a paperless society, but there are things we need to have, right?
Yeah.
You need to have your birth certificate, your passport, right? Your marriage license. You need to have your cyber insurance policy and your strategy plan for incident response plan printed out.
Yeah.
One of the things, right? This all boils down to how prepared are you? How defensive are you? Things are changing. The use of AI, these people go to work like a career. It is their career and they're very serious about it. Carm has developed this tool called the iCat, and you can scan the code there. He has created a complimentary assessment for companies to really see where they stand, right? It's a sneak peek to see just really, I'm going to share it now. Um, what's your position against the bad guys? They're not playing, they're going all in. You should as well. And why leave your company open to cyber risk? It covers the 6 points that Carm constantly talks about. And so we just really want to encourage everyone to scan the QR code, take your complimentary iCat. It's going to print out a report for you so that you can get a visual. And as you're taking the iCat, you'll get the visual as you go, and you'll see your strengths and your weaknesses. We do it for our businesses at least once a year, right? We do a SWOT analysis on our businesses. We need to start to do this, Carmen, and please share with everybody why it's so important and why you created this as a complementary tool, because it has tremendous value in it.
Well, most of us can uh, process information in different ways, but better visually. And created something where you can really look at all of the different aspects that are going on to help you consider that there's 6 domains to cybersecurity framework as developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And just to evaluate this and look and say, hey, if I can visualize it, help me understand it. And I started off with let's with a crayon exercise, and then we
Mhm.
made it something digital. But just being able to sit there and say, okay, if I can color in this box a little bit more this year, where do I want to do that?
Exactly, and that's such a good process, right? How are we improving? And this is a visual way to see how you're improving, reducing your risk, and getting better. Well, gentlemen, this has been a fantastic time together. I know you have shared a tremendous amount of information, resources, and wisdom, experiential wisdom with folks. basically we don't want people to be attacked in the first place. That's why Carm is here. And then secondly, with Brian, they're working together for a reason. They're collaborating for a reason. If you are, make sure you have the right policy in place. And you guys really tag team wonderfully together to create, as much protection and defense for people as possible. You're giving high fives?
High five.
Yeah, high fives, high fives, high fives.
High five.
Disappeared in your virtual background.
Yeah.
So, the contact information is there. This is a LinkedIn Live event. Feel free to DM any of us and we'll make sure that you're connected well. But Brian and Carm are definitely the stars of the show. Again, my name is Heather A. Kolar from the Heather A. Kolar Agency. Happy to bring you this event today. Gentlemen, any closing remarks?
I just want to thank Brian for taking time to join me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. Yeah, I'm glad to check LinkedIn Live off my bucket list. So
fantastic.
A little nervous, but yeah, Heather did a great job quarterbacking. So
take the ICAT.
Take the ICAT.
I will say I took the ICAT when I started my business. It was very eye-opening. I scored very, very low and was like, man, I really need to.
So listen, if the cyber insurance guy scored very low, that should tell us something that we all need to take it and continue taking it. Because once again, I can't tell you enough, this fact that the cyber crime industry is a $10 trillion industry. They're growing leaps and bounds. They're very, very profitable. So they're not going to stop.
It's kind of like Crazy Eddie. Cybercrime is a $10 trillion business. It's the third largest economy in the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. You'll also have fun when you talk to Brian and Carm, right? They definitely keep cyber crime boring, but they also like to have a little bit of fun with it. So thank you again, everyone. Have a beautiful, blessed day, and contact these two gentlemen.
And thank you also for the comments from
Yes.
the viewers.
Thank you
very
for
much.
commenting. Yeah, questions are welcomed as well.